All right, folks. Thanks for joining. My name is Wes Barnes. I'm a member of the product management team here over at Atomized. I welcome everyone to this week's weekly webinar covering some of our integrations. Also joining me is Courtney Rogers, and Courtney will be fielding questions via the chat. So if you have any questions throughout the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. And if we don't address them in the chat, then we'll address them, near the end there. In addition, we do these weekly. So next week, Courtney will be revisiting building out your first campaign, a step-by-step guide that should be, it's one of the first, things we'd like to get people into. So if you haven't signed up, there should be a link jumping in the chat. Sign up for that, and we look forward to hearing from you. Also, we store our webinars usually on our website. So if you go to www.atomized.com and jump into the blog, you'll see back issues of our webinars recorded. All right, so let's talk about integrations. With Atomized, what a part of our goal is to enhance customers' existing workflows. So we know that it's often very difficult for teams to want to switch using tools, or they use an assortment of tools, and we aren't here necessarily to replace those tools. We see ourselves as a layer to visualize content, asset, editorial, or events, and we work very well with hundreds of other tools through a couple of our connectors. So whether it be Dropbox or Workfront, which is a big one for us, pulling in stuff into Atomized and in some cases sending them out. So just know that if you're using a popular tool or something and you have questions about whether or not we can integrate with that, feel free to reach out to us. You can do it via help on our website. We have a live chat that usually gets responded to by John or Courtney or one of the members of our team. So feel free to reach out. I'm not going to go over all of these today. I'm going to do some of our more popular, some of the more popular things that we do with our tools, with just a few tools. But just know that we integrate with it quite a bit. Today, I'm going to cover a few common tasks. One, creating new flights in Atomized from triggers executed outside of Atomized. So from adding items, you can create new flights from adding lines to a Google Sheet. You can create new flights from adding content into Google Box or Dropbox or any other one of those sorts. But today I'm going to show you how to do it with Google Sheets. Also, you can add content to our asset library, and that being, documents, PDFs, images, videos, things like that, by adding them externally as well. So today I'm going to show you how we do it with Dropbox and then also with Trello. And those are forms of what I call inbound, coming out from outside into Atomized. I'm going to show you also how doing things like updating statuses or changing or tagging a person within a flight can actually trigger messages outbound. I'll demonstrate Slack, but we can also do it with things like Gmail and a number of other areas. Cool. So great. So let's get started. Great. So we'll start first with adding a flight from a line item created in Google Sheets. And just for us to remind you guys of what we mean by flights, flight is generally a container. A container for content. So you can add images, you can add documents, you can add multiple images, you can create tags and things like that, and you can also assign it to people, assign approvals, and then add comments to that when you're collaborating on flight. So that's flights. Let's jump over into Google Sheets. So one of the most common things that we hear oftentimes when working with marketers or planners is that they're commonly using spreadsheets to collaborate, whether it be with documents or whether it be with a planning timeline. So we, hear this quite a bit as a method of how can I get my stuff in a more visual aspect and out of some of the spreadsheets that we use. And in many cases, it's, something agencies or partners are going to continue to use spreadsheets, but they're going to have a much more visual way of seeing their content when it goes into Atomized. So let's start here. I've got a spreadsheet, and most of this demo is based on our fictitious company called Atomic Coffee. I've got a spreadsheet. I'm going to start by grabbing a link from one of our review statuses, and then I'm going to jump over into this spreadsheet. I'm going to add a title. Reading. Let's select the date. 6. Let's say we want to go through to 27. We'll drop our link in here, and just so you have an idea of what we're looking at, this is a photo of our link or the content that we're passing over to Atomized. So jump back into the Google Sheet. We'll select approved. Now, what we're doing here is the trigger for this particular action is based on the approval status column. So once you see that I've got some that are pending and others that are approved, once the item is approved or set to approve, that will clear a trigger to send that particular item over to Flight and Atomized, right? And just to be clear, we set the status as approved as an arbitrary status, but you can, say, legal request or any other form of item that you're accustomed to using. So let's jump in now and look over at Atomized. Great, and then here we see we've got in our Google Sheets row, and what I've done is created for each of our integrations that we're showing, or some of the ones that we're showing today, I've created a channel or a track for each one of those and kind of grouped them by integrations. So if I go in to my flight, I can see my image that got pulled in from the link. I can see the title that got pulled in. And from here, I can do additional things like comments. I can assign it to Gabe, and I can change the status for approvals. Right. All right. So there you go. So we've got a piece of content that was created on a Google Sheet and brought in all right into Atomized. Let's look at another one. Let's look at our next one, which is we're going to use Dropbox to add an item or a piece of content into our asset library. An asset library is placed in Atomized, and we'll see here just a second, where you can store reusable content. So let's look at this. So here I've got my Atomic Coffee Dropbox. It's shared by me and a couple of other folks, Gabe and John. And you can see I've already added some images in there. But I'm going to go ahead and upload a file. Give it a second to upload. Yeah. Okay. Image, beautiful double espresso pour. And let's go over into Atomized now and have a look in our asset library. So asset library is over in your right-hand rail. You click on it, if you click on it initially, you get a shorthand preview of what's there. I'm gonna go into the full asset view, clicking on the cross arrows here. And here you can see that I've got my image pulled over from adding it to my Dropbox drive. And there's a number of things too. If there's any metadata that is associated with that image, it'll come over. If I want to add tags to the image, I can do that as well. I'll do that today. And while I'm at it, just for a mental illness. No, you can upload images from your computer, but another state of integration is a direct integration where you can upload directly from a Google Drive. So you can connect to your Google Drive with the permissions, and then from there, you can directly upload images from there. Great. All right, haven't seen that. Let's have a look at some things we can do in Trello. For those of you unfamiliar with Trello, Trello is a project management application that's used for teams to collaborate. It is, very well liked. It's really easy to use. It can be used for project planning, event planning. Folks even use it personally for planning, kitchen upgrades and things like that. I sometimes use it or regularly use it for my own personal to-do list. But let's look at this. So with this, we're just going to show how adding a piece of content to this and moving it from one column to another can trigger an event that will go over into Atomized. And then on the back end, we'll also show how updating the status can make it have an effect as well. So I'm going to create what's called a Trello card here down at the bottom. Let's say we're going to work on our coffee truck campaign. So coffee week. Go into the actual card, and among other things, add some information. All right, get that together, Wes. And then we'll let's add an attachment. So pulling from the computer. That looks good. See what we got. Great. If you scroll down, you can see our coffee truck. Excellent. So having done that, let's now drag this guy over to our doing column, since we are going to be working on that this week. And then let's jump over into Atomized. Nice. So let's go over to our date. If we look at our Trello track here, we see that we've got our coffee truck of the week. If we jump into it, we can see our truck. We can see, oops, click on the image. We can see that we've got our coffee truck image available, as well as the name based on some content that we pulled over. So again, there's multiple ways that you can pull in content, create flights, create assets that will flow into Atomized and help to trigger or begin to move your team into a more collaborative mode. So those are some of the ways that things can come into Atomized. Let's look at a couple of ways that, actions in Atomized that can trigger events outside. So, let's take, for example, updating a stat. This item I have here. So this item I have here is a piece of content, and let's say that with that piece of content, I want to go ahead and get an approval request for that content. So I trigger that as an approval request, and what that will do is it will trigger an event that will go into my Slack channel, and with the Slack channel, I have a team that can be able to look at that and say, "Hey, here's a piece of content that has been updated and atomized and needs to be approved." Let me jump over to Slack and see what we got. Great. So I did this a little bit earlier. So we'd have a piece of content. It sometimes takes a couple minutes for it to run over, but here you'll see that I've gone into what is one of our dev channels, and the piece of content for our cup of coffee is in there. Folks can go in and then, give it a thumbs up, or even, in some cases, we add a link. You can add a link. All of this content here is customizable. You can add a link that will take you back into Atomized if the approval needs to happen with Atomized. And that's one of the ways that, when we're looking at content in Atomized, you can get interaction back from in the Atomized back out to Atomized. Also, we can do this with such things as Google Doc, as a Gmail. So you can say, well, I want to be notified when something gets updated in Slack, I want to know. An additional item is that if we set a status, we can set a status on Trello track and say approved. And if that happens with an approved, once we go over to Trello, our item will move from the doing column to the done column. So those are a number of ways that we can do integrations with Atomized. And like I said, these are only a few of dozens of ways or hundreds of ways that customers are using to enhance their workflow and to drive integration across the platform. That's what I have to show for today. I think in a future when we'll go a little deeper into some of the more advanced integrations. But at this time, Courtney, are there any questions?
No questions.
Okay, sorry, and sorry to put you through it. Courtney has a bit of a sore voice today. If anyone else has any questions or would like to question me about a particular one, I'll give you a minute or so to, again, drop something into the chat. And if not, we'll go from there. One thing I'd like to mention is, again, we do these weekly, so look forward to future webinars and sign up as they come out. Also, we have a very robust help at help.atomized.com, which goes through not only the common things you can do with Atomized, but we also have a section for integrations that goes a little bit more in depth on step-by-step things like, our Dropbox integration, our Slack integration, our Trello integration, and you can see, in some cases, you can even see a full-length video that I've gone through or that one of the team's gone through just on that integration. So feel free to visit that in the future. And as always, when you're on Atomized.com, there's a chat window that you can just jump in and ask us questions if you get stuck. So if we don't have any other questions, I want to thank everyone again for attending our weekly webinar series. We really get excited about folks coming to this. Tell your friends, join future items. And with that, I will say farewell. Have a good week.